So as we compared normal to parafunction, how far does someone need to protrude? Not too far, just to get to edge to edge. How far will someone open here? There's a limit to what is purposely functional. So we're trying to, this dimension, the vertical dimension of opening has to do with the rotation. No one exceeds this. People aren't protruding like this in normal function. But in parafunction, that can happen. That would be weird to chew food like that. You have to assume excessive protrusions. And once they get there, what will you do about it? In this excessive protrusion, here's this posterior contact, but the rotation isn't excessive. We can't control their degree of translation. You can't get in the way and try to put a block here because they'll just push against you. The lateral pterygoids are pulling the condyles forward. So you can't really control translation. You can control the degree of the rotation. You have to control that. And you control the rotation by the vertical dimension of occluding. That's going to happen in a protrusive parafunctioner. It's going to happen. If you have a full coverage splint and you arrange for that, it'll just clench back there. A full coverage splint, as you make it thicker to insist on incisal edge contact, you have to rotate them open. When you have an NTI device, you couldn't fit a full coverage splint in here. You've got the room on a lower device like this, or in an upper device, that beak would be, if a device is here, the beak is aiming up. It's at the same elevation as this lower device. No one would ever bite food way out like this anyway. So the biggest mistake I began to make when I switched over to start making lower devices was my reluctance to lower the back end of the lower discluding element in protrusion. In fact, Keller, when you see their new photographs, for a long time on the Keller brochure showed an upper device. And all of a sudden I started reverse field on them, and I start making lower devices all the time. And I look at their image, I talked to Bill Keller, I said, you might want to start showing the lower because that's what I'm doing. And they're going to say, why does Boyd make a lower and Keller makes it? It's not that the intent is the most usual and customary. So Keller starts showing the image of the lower device, and sure enough, if you take a look at it, the back end of the DE slopes down. Because as a dentist, for $100 or so, you want to do as little as you have to do. You don't have to start to check all these things and be responsible for it. So the lab gets you as close as they can. Then you can have a few minor adjustments that you may have to make. So when this guy protruded, I had to lower this discluding element. So that few millimeters of acrylic shaving this down changed his feeling entirely. But now I have a second thing I have to watch out for. Sometimes the more you shave this down to get minimal vertical opening, now you have to start watching. You always got to look all over the place, because once you change one thing here, something else is different. I wouldn't hesitate. If this hurt, you go, shave down the discluding element, go forward. Hurts less. I can clench there. What did you say? If I see a contact back there, I would not hesitate to reduce a cusp tip back here. There's no such thing as, I wouldn't alter the stem cusp. The what? The cusp he uses to clench with. Oh, who cares? Rule number one, I don't want to break rule number one, incisal edge contact, if I've created a posterior contact. Now I have to go back and adhere to rule number one. If this is a guy's lower device, here's the labial, here's the lingual. Can you make the diagnosis of why this guy has neck pain and facial pain and persistence of headache, even though he's got an NTI device? So here's where his centrals, upper centrals, this thing comes up, and here's the lingual side, and here's a bunch of, we call these chirp marks. It goes right off the end of it. And this is kind of a more mature man who was kind of grumpy and didn't think this damn thing was worth it to try anyway. And so when he sat down, he said, still having headaches. There's a whole lot of information that you need to find out. And so I always back up and ask my original questions. Well, how many mornings a week do you wake with a 0? What's the average number you have upon waking? And if you could spray paint your head or show me where it is, where would it be? And his headaches had changed from here, now they're here, because when they change, they get mad. It bugs them. So put your device in and make your jaw go forward. And he goes, the excluding element overlaps his front teeth. That's why the markings go right off the back end. So I didn't check for maximum protrusion, or maybe I did. This is one of those cases, was I here that day? Did I make you go like this when I put the device in? You'll say, yeah, God damn it, I did like that. Well, maybe he didn't have a headache for the first 3 days, because I see him at 2 weeks. In the first 3 days, the musculature said, hey, we're feeling a lot better. What else can we do? Let's try that. Hey, we can go up. Temporalis takes its opportunity, because the lateral pterygoid brought the condyles more forward than they ever could before. It just took them a little while to get there. So now this guy, bam, has a brand new thing. NTI devices make patients worse. If this was the first device you ever delivered and this happened, that will be the last device you ever deliver. So because acrylic tends to blend with the old acrylic, I always put a pencil line on the back end of where I was, so I know I don't shave off right back to where I was. So I put a pencil mark on here, I add the acrylic direct, I extend that thing, have him protrude. That was the last I saw that guy. In my world, I insist, like I said, it will hurt my feelings if you don't get any better and don't tell me. If you get worse, it'll break my heart if you don't come and tell me. If you get better, I don't care if I never see you again. You're not supposed to go see your heart doctor if your heart's fine. You don't want to see your headache doctor. You want him to fix it. So you can go back to your dentist, take that with you. Every time you get your teeth cleaned, take it with you.